There was a little girl who asked her mother, "Where do humans come from, Mommy?" And she said, "Well, God made Adam and Eve, and they had children, and that's how the human race was created." So she thought about it. A couple of days later, she asked her dad and said, "Dad, where do humans come from?" And he said, "Well, there were a lot of monkeys on the planet, and then they evolved into humans." The little girl was confused, and she went to her mom and said, "Mom, I don't understand. Dad says, you say that God made people, and Dad says that monkeys did." And she said, "Will you help me understand?" And her mom said, "It's simple. I told you about my side of the family, and he told you about his." Oh, I love that. It says in the book of Genesis, "And God said, 'Let us make man in our image and after our likeness.'" Each of us has the essence of male and female within us. We're created in the image and likeness of God, which is contains all the divine attributes of mother, woman, and father, male, man. The love, heart, intuition are known to be more female attributes, whereas wisdom and intellect are more male attributes. But each of us has both of these within us. When God said it is not good for man to live alone, what metaphysically means it is not good for the intellect to act alone. That the intellect needs it needs the heart to help it discern, to help it be more gentle in its judgment, to soften it, to be open to intuition. It's funny that I'm talking about intuition today because I certainly was not in a place of it in preparing this talk. My ego was all over it and all over me, especially yesterday. I wasn't awakened to it. And I felt like I needed a red thread to trace me back to exactly why did I want to give a talk on the red thread anyway? Where did that idea come from, and what was I excited about when I thought it up? The red thread. The red thread, it comes from many cultures and many different religions. In Buddhism, red serves as a symbol of compassion and life force, and it controls the tongue. It's a reminder to demonstrate compassion and control your tongue. Watch your words. The Japanese say that there is a vein that runs from the heart to the tip of the tiniest pinky finger. And when we are born, that there is an invisible red thread that extends out from the pinky to all the people who we are going to meet in our lives. Shows us the connections that we'll have. There's also a legend of an old man in Japanese who lives in the moon, and at nighttime he comes out and connects red threads between all the people that you're supposed to learn something from. It helps us find our paths to each other. In Hinduism, it's worn as good luck and protection and to feel connected. And in ancient Chinese, it ties together all the lives that will intertwine. In Kabbalah, which is Jewish mysticism, it's worn on the left wrist, left because it's closest to the heart. And it serves as a reminder to stay open, to receive, to honor the feminine, the divine feminine. I'm wearing my red thread today on my left wrist. So is everyone who's helping with this service this morning. They didn't know when I gave them one what it meant, what it was going to mean. Maybe some of them did. But it's a reminder to stay open to the divine feminine, because it's only when we're receptive, receptivity being a female attribute, it's only when we're receptive that we can discern spiritual truth, that we can connect with spirit, that we can awaken that divine feminine within us. Each of us, whether we're male or female, has this divine feminine within. Why is it so hard to stay awake to that? Why is it so hard to stay focused on that, allow ourselves to be open to our intuition? Why did I have such a hard time with my talk this week in just allowing it to flow? To listen to the heart. Well, culturally, we've been a patriarchal society for thousands of years. The voice of the feminine has been buried for a long time. In the Bible, it was the year 382. The Council of Rome decided what the Biblical Canon would be. Canon meaning the authoritative response, the authoritative scripture. Canon is a Greek word comes from a Greek word that means measuring stick. Excuse me. There were many gospels in circulation at this time, and only 4 made it into the canon. Only 4 that the church leaders of the time thought was how they wanted the Jesus story to be remembered in history. All the other gospels were to be destroyed as hearsay, but fortunately there were people that hid them in caves, in jars. And they've only just been surfacing in the last 100 years or so. The gospel according to Mary Magdalene was one of these gospels that was hidden away, that was declared heresy. And it was discovered in Egypt in 1896. The gospel according to Mary Magdalene is fascinating to me. If you were with us last Sunday, I mentioned that Mary Magdalene was considered the apostle to the apostles, that she was the most devoted of all the apostles, that she was there at the crucifixion. She was there at the tomb. All the rest of them had fled in fear, but she was there. And she was the one in all 4 canonical gospels that show that she was the one Jesus revealed the resurrection to. Now, why is she the one the resurrection was revealed to and not any of the other apostles? She doesn't have a prominent place in those 4 gospels much. I mean, she does at the resurrection, but she's not talked about a whole lot. Probably the fact that her name is even in the gospels means that she was important, though. She was a woman of wealth and social standing. She probably supported Jesus during his ministry. But in her gospel, she's instructing the apostles on what Jesus had taught her. That he had taught her things that he hadn't taught the others. That she was receptive to the teachings. Now, Mary Magdalene represents the soul. She represents that part of us that is receptive to ideas such as the resurrection. That part of ourselves that is open and receptive. So it's no wonder that the resurrection was revealed to a woman. Jesus taught her what was hidden, what was deep within each of us. And in her gospel, she talks about this. One of the main messages of her gospel is that we're inherently good, no matter where we've been, no matter what we've done. And deep down in our souls, we know this. We know this, not so much in the world, though. A big part of our life's work is to integrate the soul with the ego, is to align our personality self with our higher self, to come to that place of knowing that we have everything we need within us, and it is good. This is the message in most of the Gospels that were meant to be destroyed, that the Christ within was an important teaching. And this teaching wasn't in the Gospels that made it into the canon Bible. We've learned from these fragments of different scriptures that have been found in the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Nag Hammadi. Jesus showed us the way to do this. Jesus showed us how to live a spiritual life, how to find the kingdom of God within. That's why in Unity we call him our way shower. Not to worship him, but to follow him, to follow in his footsteps, to be fully alive. In the Gospel of Mary, it says, chapter 5, verse 8, "For he has united us and made us true humans." True humans are those who recognize that we're 100% human and 100% divine. Few of us really get that. The apostles didn't get it, but Mary Magdalene did. And Jesus showed her how. And she's mentioned in the Bible as being the one Jesus healed from 7 demons. Well, Megan Watterson, who has a master's in theology and a master's in divinity from Harvard, interprets this as being not 7 demons, but 7 egoic powers that we need to overcome to truly live a spiritual life. And she attempts to teach the apostles this in her gospel. How to live and see and hear from the heart. That we must go within in order to ascend our souls. That's where love is. That's from where it's expressed and shared. Megan Watterson says this in Mary Magdalene Revealed. The imperative in Mary's gospel is to become the child of true humanity, which means fully human and fully divine. It means becoming fully conscious of the eternal, unbounded soul, while here in the tethered, limited human form. And this means to me as trying and faltering and trying again to cultivate this love inside us. It means doing all we can to be the presence of love. And this comes about through a fierce love for self. A love for self where we know our own innate power. That we don't have to do anything to earn it or be worthy of it, to deserve it. That it's innately ours. It's who we are, and this is an awakening to the divine feminine. It's an awakening to the divine feminine in each of us. The church leaders of the time found it threatening, because if we stand in our own power, they lose control over us. Now, not to blame them, because that was the consciousness at the time. But we need to stand in our own power and reclaim our divine feminine. Reclaim it and awaken it. It was in Pope Gregory's homily in the year 591 where Mary Magdalene was it was first said that she was a prostitute. Now, Pope Gregory was using a lens for interpreting this scripture, whatever lens that was. It served the early church fathers. It put women in their place. It undermined Mary Magdalene's teachings. And it eliminated any future leadership role for women in the church. It also set up women as being associated with sin and temptation. It wasn't until 1969 that the church reversed its stand on Mary Magdalene. Said that there was nothing in the scriptures to indicate that she was a prostitute. And they made her a saint. And she has a day that we celebrate her, which is July 22nd. Now, that's nice, right? Nice that they did something, but we're left with a society that struggles to embrace the divine feminine, especially within Christianity. We're only just starting to work on this in the collective. It's a slow process. The patriarchal mindsets have been ingrained in us for a long time, ingrained into our cultures. But we can overcome this by realizing our wholeness, by claiming our wholeness, by embracing all of ourselves. Male and female, he created them. Embrace all of those attributes that are within each of us. Awaken to our divine feminine and become more heart-centered. Now, how do we do this? We step out of our comfort zone, out of our patterns of behavior. We can join a support group that allows us to be vulnerable, that allows us to be our whole selves when speaking from the heart. Allows us to cry if we're a man, allows us to speak up if we're a woman. And we need to be aware when we're not coming from a place of wholeness. Both men and women need to stand up for their wholeness, for their whole being. Let it be okay to be in your humanness. Jesus showed us this. We're 100% fully human, as well as 100% fully divine. We don't need to just accept the roles that we've been taught to play. I have some goddess cards that I just got, and they're the different cards of goddesses, and then you look up, you pick one, and then you look up to see what that one represents for you in that moment. So last night I was really struggling with this talk. Struggling with following my intuition. I should have been wearing my red thread. So I shuffled the cards and I laid them face down and I fanned them out on my kitchen counter and I chose one. And the one I got was Queen Esther. Now, Queen Esther was Jewish, but she was married to a Persian king. She used intuition and divine timing to save her people from execution. She represents the divine feminine. She represents spiritual love, whereas the king represents personal human will. Spiritual love is the only thing that can control the human will. When you choose Queen Esther as your card, it means you're trying to force something to happen rather than allowing it to happen in divine timing. I was really amused by that because that's exactly what was happening to me. So I decided to watch a couple hours of TV. Divine timing wasn't then, I decided. But using that divine, awakening to that divine feminine means to stop always counting on the intellect and use your intuition. Listen to your guidance. Listen to your soul. Trust your soul's voice. My soul's voice in that moment said, it's not right now. It's not coming right now. That's the divine feminine, awakening to that. And men can do this too. Kevin and I were just finished a series that we're watching on the National Geographic channel about Einstein. Einstein, a man of the 20th century, but he was an innovator, a visionary. He questioned everything, even if it was previously proven. He used his intuition. He used his power of imagination. He was able to see beyond what the world was telling him. That's what we're called to do. See beyond the worldly things. See beyond what the world is telling us. Einstein didn't let societal rules dictate his life and how he would live. It's fascinating. So are you willing to be awake to the divine feminine? Can you wake her up? Be more receptive to spirit. I would invite you to wear a red thread on your left wrist to remind you of this, or whatever reminders would help you. Be awake to this love that is within. This love is a deep, fierce love. And my wish for you is that you connect with that for yourself. Once we can fully integrate our human self with our divine self, our ego with our soul, we'll know that love unconditionally, that is always there for us. And nothing can stand in our way of living a truly full life. Kelly Isla is a Unity minister, and she wrote an article this month in Unity magazine, talked about the acorn and how the acorn is exactly, it's got all the same potential as the oak tree. It's got everything it needs to become that oak tree, but it needs to break down. Same is true with us. We have everything we need. Our whole potential is within us. But we need to break down our beliefs. We need to break down our attachments. We may need to break down our careers or some of our relationships in order to allow our potential to live, to be the fully human, fully divine being that we are. We're all that and then some, she says. Allow yourself that. Awaken that divine feminine within you and experience a love that has no bounds, a love for yourself that then extends out, truly can be life-changing, can change our culture, can change our society. When more and more people wake up to the divine feminine within them, when they allow themselves to be ruled by more their heart than their head. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Eric Butterworth that says, "Don't let the world around you force you into its own mold, but let God remold your mind from within. This is to awaken the divine feminine, the wisdom to believe the heart. You are intended to be not just a reflector, but an innovator. You are not just a mind computer to be programmed with facts, but a creative imagination to give birth to them." So awaken to your divine feminine within. There's freedom in living that way. When you live from your intuition and your guidance, and you come to know all the love that you are. It's an immense, fierce love already to be expressed, to be shared, and to be lived. I want to invite you into a time of meditation with me now. As you gently close your eyes, take a deep, cleansing breath. And God said, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness." And God created man in his own image, male and female created them. Come to know our wholeness. Allow that divine feminine within you to wake up. See all the love within. It's not good for wisdom to act alone. It needs love. So we spend some time in the silence discerning how can we be more love.